Hey everybody, this is Lauren Stein over here at Acctivate. Today we're going to go over lot and serial traceability, which is going to cover both lot serial control as well as the track and trace modules. So before we get into track and trace, let's talk about the other required module to utilize this feature, which is lot serial control. Lot serial tracking is an optional add-on module for our customers, but it is required for the use with the track and trace module. Lot numbers give you the ability to track batches or lots of items based on receipts and or assembly sessions. The lot number is required for all inventory-related transactions to post and gives you an in-depth history of what happened to that set of items and that specific lot number. Serial numbers give you the ability to track unique identifiers for each unit of a product utilizing this control type. This unique number is also required for all inventory-related transactions to post if that product has that specific control type, including invoices to your customers, and that goes for both lot and serial numbers. It's going to be required for all transactions. With this module, you also have the ability to use actual cost. Actual cost is the average of all posted transactions for a specific lot or serial number. This includes receipts, transfers, assemblies, and balance adjustments. The cost of goods sold on an invoice will be the roll-up of any of these posted transactions regardless of the date you posted them. For example, you could have already invoiced your customer for a lot numbered item, and then maybe a month later you receive a shipping bill that needs to be allocated across a couple of lot numbers that you've received from your vendors. So when you post this shipping bill a month later as a landed cost session, it will allocate across all related transactions for that lot number. So if you're updating or allocating across, the original receipt, or maybe a transfer or an assembly, anything from that point forward will be affected, and that goes all the way through to the invoices. If you utilize other cost methods that are available in Acctivate other than actual cost for lot and serial numbers, the cost itself is not linked in any way to a specific lot or serial number like actual cost is. So let's say you use FIFO, and you're using FIFO and you've got these lot numbers, and for some reason or another, somebody in the warehouse, when they're packing a box to send to your customer, they don't pack the first one that you received. So from that point forward, if you're using FIFO with those lot numbers, the unit cost potentially will not match up to the lot number that you're actually sending to your customer. So that's why if you use lot or serial numbers, if you're in implementation or adding this functionality after you've already gone live with Acctivate, we will typically recommend using actual cost, just because usually if you're using lot or serial numbers, you need that to have that unique identifier needs to flow through each of the transactions, as well as the related unit costs specifically for those lot and serial numbers. Okay, so moving on to track and trace capability. An inventory track and trace transaction allows you to track the usage and or trace the source of a serial or lot controlled item in Acctivate. This module is extremely useful if you need to, let's say, recall an item, or an item that's used in an assembly for some reason was damaged or wasn't good, and you need to identify the origin and uses of that specific lot or serial controlled item. You can do so using this track and trace module. And this can be accomplished even if that lot or serial number, let's say, was a raw material that's used in multiple assembly sessions, whether it's something that is, just one step as an assembly or something that's a part of a sub-assembly. You'll be able to trace that or track that all the way back to, kind of the beginning of time for that lot number. With the inventory track and trace transaction, you'll also be able to save this track and trace and print a report that shows you all the related information. And then you have a couple of different options with this module. So you can track the usage, which starts with the creation of the lot in question and goes forward in time. This includes any assemblies built utilizing this lot number. And then there's also trace the source, which starts with the selected lot and goes backwards in time to track the source of the lot, whether it's a receipt or an assembly. So you'd have maybe a lot number from a finished good, and so you select that on the transaction, and it'll pull all the related source information from that point backwards to let you know, what else was used in that and what all needs to be researched for that specific scenario. You also have the ability to track usage and trace the source, which will show you backwards and forwards. It'll show you pretty much every transaction posted to that inventory that affected that lot number or used that lot or serial number. Okay, so on the track and trace window, there are a few parameters. As stated in the previous slide, you'll create a new session. You'll select the type based on your needs. So that's going to be track and trace, track usage, or trace source. This is followed by selecting the specific product in question, as well as the related lot serial number. You'll need to create a new session for each new product and or each new lot or serial number in question. While in the session, the users also have the ability to choose a specific warehouse to track and or trace. So let's say you have a D and an F warehouse like in our demo company. You receive a lot numbered item into D, but you use that item to create a product in warehouse F. So on the track and trace session, when you filter on the F warehouse, depending on which type you choose, you'll also see the related receipt transaction in the D warehouse because you're filtering on F, but that lot number was affected by the transaction that was posted into D. Also, we have an option to select a date range of transactions to show. So you may post a lot of transactions utilizing different lot numbers, and you know the date range that you need to research. So this gives you the ability to only look at this specific date range rather than having to filter through all the different transactions that you post. Like if you're posting a ton of assemblies or other inventory transactions that use these lot numbers, you're not going to want to have to look through, like if one lot number you, let's say, received like 10,000 units or something, and you use that lot number for a few months in all these different transactions, this will give you the ability to not, like I said, have to filter through all that, and you can just see the specific date range or parameters that you set on the session. Now with this session, just like other windows, you can specify a document which could relate to, let's say, a recall notice or some other related document received which prompted you to create this track and trace or trace session. You can also add a reference to give the users more details on why you created the transaction or which transaction it's related to. Users can also create notes both on the detail lines of the session and as a business alert reminder. The reminders can be assigned to other users for them to verify or process further, and it could just be, random notes. And then also in version, I believe 10, we introduce the ability to add attachment to notes if there are some attachments that you need. If there are related emails, you can drag and drop them from Outlook into the email tab. You can also send emails from the session using the track and trace email templates, which these templates will help you pre-fill information based on the stuff that's shown on the session. And the emails sent from the session are automatically saved without the need for drag and drop if you're sending them from Acctivate. That's the same as all windows in Acctivate that have the ability to email. For our customers utilizing business activities, you can also link the activity to the track and trace session. This gives you the ability to link customers, invoices, etc. all in one spot, as well as assign to other users to process further. Also, you can attach documents via the Smart Vault integration to the sessions when you're using that add-on module. Now, not everybody has Smart Vault, but Smart Vault does give you the ability to control who sees what documents and, who has access to the Smart Vault folders, and it's also going to be accessible outside of Acctivate. So, yes, you can attach stuff to notes and or emails and drag and drop those emails into Acctivate, but Smart Vault does give you the capability of looking at those documents outside of Acctivate. Let's say if people are on the field and need access to that information, they can do so in Smart Vault. Okay, so I didn't want to spend too much time in PowerPoint today, so let's go ahead and get into Acctivate and take a look at how all this flows. All right, so since this deals with lot serial numbers and some of you may not utilize them yet, you're in this session just to see if this is something that would be good for your business to add to your Acctivate. I'm going to start out with receiving the components and go all the way through an assembly process as well as selling the finished goods to your customer. And then we're going to create a trace session so you can see how that all looks in Track and Trace and what all is available there. I've gone ahead and created a couple of POs and receipt sessions, or actually one receipt session with multiple transactions, just to go ahead and get started without having to start from scratch. So we've got this session 64. I do have two separate transactions for this because it's two separate POs due to them being shipped to different warehouses. So we've got this warehouse over here on the right, F, and then it goes to Baby Bell, and then this is the specific purchase order for transaction 1. We've got vanilla. Today, just to give you a little insight, we're going to be making ground French vanilla coffee beans and bagging them as well, and we're going to do all the ingredients and stuff that go into that. So for anybody that's a coffee maker, I apologize in advance if the component quantities aren't exact to what they should be. Anyway, so we've got vanilla beans, and I've already gone ahead and added the lot serial number for the vanilla beans. You can see that here, and then also the whole coffee beans. So to make it a little easy, I'm just going to abbreviate what the product is plus the date that it was received. And we're going to receive them as of 10/25. Throughout this whole demo, I'm going to have different dates so you can kind of see how the lot serial number stuff flows through Acctivate, because you can't use a lot that you've received until after that date, because Acctivate is very date sensitive, especially with lot numbers and serial numbers. I'm not going to be using serial numbers, it's just going to be lot numbers, but it's the same premise except serial numbers are 1-to-1 and lot numbers are 1-to-many. Okay, so we have the second transaction, which is in warehouse D. Same vendor, but since it's in a different warehouse, it's two different POs, and this one is molasses, which is a lot numbered item, and then granulated sugar, which that one's not lot controlled. Wanted to make sure we had some items that weren't lot controlled in this. Okay, so this is all good, and also just another note, when you do a session with multiple transactions, the session number and date are going to be the same throughout all the transactions, but separating them out in transactions allows you to post them all at once. So I'm posting a receipt for two different purchase orders for two different warehouses at the same time because I'm using transactions, and that's add transaction, and you can also delete transactions. All right, we'll go ahead and post. And we'll just take a look at the receipt report. Everything's good. We've got the two separate transactions, and we see the lot numbers and the unit costs and all that for the receipt. Okay, so now let's take a look at the assembly sessions. So we go to inventory, inventory assemblies. These are going to be comprised of the components that we just received, as well as I've created other sessions that include the finished goods of the sessions as I post them. So we're going to start with session 63. This one is to make brown sugar, because brown sugar is what is used to make this French vanilla flavoring. So let's go ahead and edit, and like I said earlier, this date is going to be 10/28 because we received the molasses on 10/25, so we're going to say that we're building this brown sugar item into our inventory, so when we post it, it's going to be available in our inventory or on hand as of 10/28. Let's go ahead and give brown sugar a lot number. And like I said, it's an abbreviation plus the date that it's going to be posted. And we're going to go ahead and do expiration dates as well. And let's say it's 2 months in advance. Okay, and then also let's change this quantity to 20. So we have enough on hand to cover multiple assemblies. And you can see that when you change it to 20, the actual quantity changes based on what the build quantity is. And the actual quantity is over here on the right hand side. And let's select the lot number for molasses. And this is the lot that I just received into inventory as of 10/25. And here's the specific lot with the date as well as the on-hand and available quantities. So if you have multiple lots, you'll be able to see the differences between each lot. The date received, the on-hand available, if you use bin locations, if there was a reference or specification on that lot, and if there was an expiration date. So let's go ahead and select that. Okay, and this one doesn't have any other transactions, it's just the one. So let's go ahead and post it. Do we want to post it? Yes. And here is what happens when you create an inventory assembly and post it into inventory. So we're going to have this new lot number BSG 2016-1028 on hand. We're going to have 20 of them on hand with a unit cost of 65 cents per each. And then the total amount of this transaction is $13.02. You want the transaction total and batch total to net at 0 because the cost from the components is rolling up into the cost of the finished good. And you can see the unit cost for the sugar was 45 cents, the molasses was 33 cents. We selected a lot number for the molasses, and then we have these brown sugar bags, and those are 25 cents each. And so that cost is rolled up into that unit cost of 65 cents. And when you have lot serial numbers, since I have this question box up on the screen, we're asked if the capability is new to the assembly module because they thought it was only available building kits. If you have an item that requires a lot or serial number, that lot or serial number is going to be required to be selected on any inventory transaction that you post, whether that's an assembly, a receipt, transfer, issue, you name it, kit, invoice, you name it, it's required if that item has that control type. Okay, so let's close this. And just to show people that aren't using assemblies, maybe if you do need to eventually use assemblies, this is how you create a new one on the assembly window. You just hit new, and we're going to do more brown sugar. And we're going to do warehouse F. And we're going to post this into inventory as of the 29th instead of the 28th. We're going to build a quantity of 20. And the lot number for this is going to be similar to the other one, but it's going to have 2016-1029. And also the expiration is in 2 months. Okay. We know sugar doesn't have a lot number, but molasses does. And now you can see the on hand and available has gone down. Now, if we hadn't have posted it, the on hand would still be 150, but the availability would be 140 because it would be listed on assembly session. But since we posted it, it also took 10 out of the on hand. So we'll select that, and we will go ahead and save and post this as well. We'll just take a look. It's the same, 65 cents. None of the costs changed because we didn't post any other transactions to the components. So we'll close that. Now let's take a look at the next step of the assembly that we did. I did break these out into separate sessions because we had to create the lot number for the brown sugar in order for it to be available for this ground French vanilla coffee beans product. And since that lot number can't be created until it's actually been posted, we did separate sessions. Now, if you're doing like sub-assemblies and you're not using lot numbers, or the lots are on hand at least enough to cover the next step, you can use transactions. But like I said, since we had to create those lot numbers for the components, then we had to just go ahead and create them as separate sessions. And this is a mix of what we received at the beginning and what we just posted as the brown sugar. So let's edit this. We'll go ahead and give it the lot number. And this one's being built as of 10/31. And it also expires 2 months after it's been created. So we'll go ahead and select the lot number for the whole beans, which if we go back here, this 20 on hand and 20 available, once we post it, we're not going to have any more of these whole beans in stock. So if we had to have this for another assembly, or if for some reason a customer ordered just the whole coffee beans raw, then we would need to purchase more of these in order to post those transactions. And then vanilla. and the brown sugar that we just created. And we're going to use 2 lots so you can see how it works if you need to utilize multiple lots. So for this 1029, let's say for some reason instead of doing the whole 10, they did 5 out of that lot, and then they used 5 from another lot. So we add brown sugar to the components again. And we're going to select 1029 and add the actual quantity of 5. Now the actual quantity defaulted to 20 because since it's not a standard component on the assembly item, or it's not listed twice as a standard, the unit quantity is going to default to 1, which is going to multiply that unit quantity of 1 times the quantity being built, which is 20. So since we updated that to 5, it updates the unit quantity to 0.25. And if you want specific information on how the assembly window works, you should check out our manufacturing options webinar, which we cover all that information. Okay, and then let's say for some reason instead of taking half an hour to process this, it actually only took 0.25 because we did a total of 5 hours to make all 20 pounds of these coffee beans. So we're gonna update that to 0.25, which updates the actual quantity to 5. All right, so we're gonna save and post this one. And let's take a look at this assembly session. So since we changed from the standard, you're going to see this planned quantity variance and this cost variance. So that's because we changed the quantity, the actual quantity being used for that first lot number, and then we added it again here at this bottom to select a different lot to post this transaction, because for some reason they used 5 of one and 5 of another. Maybe they did 5 and then realized they didn't have enough and then went back and grabbed a 5 from a different lot. It definitely happens. And then also the labor, same thing. We use less labor than what was planned. So there's a little bit of a difference. And the unit cost rolled up into the beans is now $9.83, which includes the unit cost of all the components. And that includes any changes that we made, with the transaction total and the batch total being 0. And that was posted as of 10/31. So now let's move to the last step of this specific multi-level assembly. So let's hit edit, and this is us actually bagging the coffee into bags, like the bags that you would buy at a store. So to do so, again, we're going to be using the lot number created in the prior session. And that's going to leave us 10 on hand after we post this. And nothing else here requires a lot number, but we're going to go ahead and add the lot number to the finished good as well. So, and this one's 11/1/2016, so it's going to be a little bit different again. And once it's bagged, it's actually vacuum sealed, so it's going to last a little bit longer than it does the raw material. So we're going to say it expires in February. All right, so we're going to save and post that one into inventory. And since this is using that $9.83 from the one that we built just a moment ago, the unit cost is now $14.38 for the bagged product, because that also includes a 1-pound coffee bag as well as a label. And we had 8 hours of labor to get this into inventory. And we didn't change any quantities, so you're not seeing any quantity variances here. Okay. And then let's go ahead and create another assembly for more French vanilla. And we're going to do this one as of 10/31. Do 10. All right. And we're going to change the labor to be 0.1 because it took a little bit longer than it usually does. All right, and then we're going to post that. And so this unit cost is going to be slightly lower because we changed the quantity for the labor, the amount of time it took to bag these items. So the unit cost for this is $11.18, and again the transaction and batch total are 0 because it's rolled up into the finished good from the components. And for those of you that are using labor on assemblies, in order for you to have a cost for labor, the labor item needs to be a standard costed item with a standard cost specified for each warehouse. And we'll just quickly take a look at that item so you can see what I'm talking about. So labor is, you see the cost method is standard. If you highlight the D warehouse, the standard cost is 10. And if you highlight the F warehouse, the standard cost is 8. Okay, so now let's go into a sales order. I'm going to create a new one for Adams. And they are, let's say they ordered this on 11/1 instead of today. We just say they did this in the future. And they ordered 10 bags of the French vanilla coffee that was already bagged. And they also got 20 bags of brown sugar. Maybe they are a bakery themselves, so they like to drink French vanilla coffee while they make stuff, but they also use our brown sugar. Okay, and then so for each item, like all other transactions, you're going to have to select a lot number. So for the French vanilla, select the lot number, and we'll do all of 10 for this 1031. And then if we go to the brown sugar, they ordered 20. We have 15 on hand of the 1028 and 15 on hand of the 1029. So we're going to use the 15 from the 1028, and the remaining 5 are going to come from the 1029. And you can see the expiration dates here as well. And if there were location, reference, specification information, that would also show on screen. All right, so we're ready to invoice this customer. Let's say we've already picked, packed, and we've shipped it to the customer. So we create invoice. And the invoice date is going to be 11/3. And they have terms that aren't, COD. So we're going to go ahead and invoice it. And invoicing is what creates or removes the products out of your inventory. So you'll see here we've got the French vanilla ground coffee, and you'll see the lot number that we sold them as well as the quantity. And then we have the 2 different lots for the brown sugar. Okay, so we're trucking along, we're doing business, everything's going great, and then let's say at some point down the road there is a recall, and it has to do with the molasses that we received at the very beginning of this process. So to do so, we will open a track and trace. So you go to Inventory, Track and Trace, you click New, and then you'll select the type. Right now we're going to set it to Track and Trace. It's both tracking the usage and tracing the source. And we'll select the molasses product. As well as the specific lot number. So this is what I was saying, where you have to create a new track and trace session for each new product as well as each different lot number. Okay, so with the track and trace selected, you can see all transactions posted utilizing this lot number. The graph at the bottom that you see here gives you a visual aid on the posted assemblies with their respected lot information. The blue one you can see here, we received the lot and use it to build brown sugar lots, as well as that brown sugar was then used in the ground French vanilla process, and then that was then bagged into these French vanilla coffee bags. Now, the graphic is only going to show you the assemblies. It's just a good visual aid to see what happened to this item. The top, and you can move this up and down to see all the transactions. Now, the top screen is going to show you all related transactions. Now that right now we only posted a receipt, assemblies, and orders or invoices. And so that's all we're going to see here, but it's also going to show you any other inventory transaction like an issue or transfer or anything else that was posted that affected that lot number. So let's toggle the type to do track usage. That for this particular item, since it was used in the full process, it's not going to change what we see here, but depending on what transactions you posted, that would change what you see based on how it was used. So if we select a different product in a different lot, it's going to show us different information. We'll do that next. And then let's do track source. And track source again is from the point you received it. So it's only going to show when you received it, and it'll give you all the detailed information there. So if you want to, you can add a note to this right here, and that's going to be for each detail line. Let's go ahead and toggle this back to track and trace. So you can add a note for each line, and that's going to be posted on the transactions tab of the product. We can also add session specific, so this will show on everything, document and reference information. Let's go ahead. We don't have a related document, but we have a reference just so people understand why we created this session, because there was a recall in the end of October in 2016. And then also just up here, we can filter on dates. So let's say we only want to see between the 15th and the 31st. So that's only going to show us stuff that was posted between those dates. So if we wanted to, maybe we leave this beginning open-ended, or maybe 10-1. And then we can say that we only want to see up to 1031. Or maybe we want to only see 1031 or maybe 25 all the way through November. I mean, you can do this any way that makes sense for what you're trying to accomplish. And then also, so this note right here is going to be for the session. It's not going to be a reminder. This is just a note on the session itself. So when we save this, which if you want to go back to be able to go back to this, report on it, add notes, activities, emails, stuff like that, you're going to have to save the transaction. So when you save it, you can see these buttons are all full color now. So we can print the track and trace. So that's going to print the information that we added. It's going to show you the trace number, the product we selected, the lot number, and the reference information. We didn't add a document or description, but you could do so if you wanted to. And then these are all the related transactions that lot number was involved in. So you can see that we received 150. We used 20 of them to build 2 different assemblies, and then all the way through to the invoicing of the French vanilla bagged coffee. Let's close that report. Again, if you use business activities, you can create a new activity that would automatically link this track and trace session to. Also, we have this note. So if you click this adds a reminder, which you can actually assign to a person. So let's assign it to Pamela, and let's say 1031. And, we'll say, can you verify we've resolved the molasses issue? All right, and we'll save and close. So now on the notes screen, you can see the note that we just added, and this user, Pamela, is going to be able to see this on her alerts menu. So if we open alerts and go to Pamela Smart, the due date is set to any time, so it's already showing, but it shows you here, can you verify we resolved this molasses issue? she can check it as complete, hit refresh, it's gone. Now it's also checked as complete here. So that's a way that you can kind of audit what's going on. And it'll also tell you, it was when it was added and when the follow-up time was. Now you can also click this email button and you can send an email and you can use the message templates. We have the ability to do a message template for track and trace. So that'll give you the specific fields available for track and trace. And then you'll be able to use that message template when you click that button. Also, if you're using Outlook, you can drag and drop emails into this tab directly from Outlook. But as always, anything that you send out of Acctivate using maybe MAPI or SMTP, those emails will show on whichever screen you sent that email from. I don't have my email set up on this specific environment, so we're not going to be able to do emails, but it does have the same functionality as it does in other windows. And also you see this paperclip button. If you have SmartVault attached to your Acctivate, this is where you'd be able to attach documents to this session or view documents that are related to this session. And then, as I was talking about earlier, we have this graph down here. So since we've still got a little bit of time, let's see what it looks like for something that wasn't from the beginning of this. So let's create a new session. We're going to leave it at track and trace, but we're going to do the ground coffee. And we're going to pick this lot number. So this ground coffee, now since we've got track and trace here, you see the graph has changed a little bit. So the ground French vanilla, this lot number, this is the source, the one that's blue. And then you'll see it utilized all these other products to create this product before. And then this product was used to create these French vanilla bags as a finished good. So we can, we can toggle on warehouse. Anything that was in the Dallas warehouse was used in the assembly process. So yes, you see D here, but since it was pulled out of D to create something in the F warehouse, when you filter on the F warehouse, it's going to show the D as well. And again, just like on the other one, you can filter based on to and from. But I wanted to use this so you could see the difference between the track usage. So if we do track usage, it's going to start at the beginning or what we built to create this ground French vanilla and then what that was used for. So that's going to be used for the vanilla bags, and then also it was used on this sales order. So yes, we invoiced the French vanilla bag, but it used the lot number for this ground French vanilla beans or ground French vanilla coffee as a component. And if we do trace source, this is going to show you from the point in time it was created backwards. So you see that we used a couple of different assemblies as well as receipts. The receipts are this whole bean and vanilla products, and the assembly is the brown sugar to create this ground French vanilla, this ground French vanilla product. And you can see here that, it's everything we did from the point we created it backwards. So that way, if for some reason, maybe there was an issue to create the ground French vanilla, but the way that you process that product will remove any maybe like foodborne illness if you're working with food. Maybe the next process uses a roasting temperature that removes any kind of bacteria. So if you have anything that's just ground French vanilla on hand, then you're only going to want to look at the stuff that was used to create that, so you can track down maybe a lot number that was used to create it, and that's the lot number you want to start from. There's a whole bunch of different scenarios you can use track and trace for, but the most common one we see is recalls. And so let's save this one and let's create one for that bagged product. And we'll do the 1031. So this again changes the graph. We've got the track and trace is going to show everything. Now, there's not really, the track usage is just going to be the sale because it wasn't used in any other assembly. It is a finished good and there's nothing else we do to it. And then the trace source is going to show you all the related transactions all the way to that final order. So you can track, or you can figure out, who's the customer that received that order, so we can call them and, let them know there may be an issue. All right, go back to track and trace and we'll save. And so now we've got these 3 track and trace sessions in here. And it's just really good information. You'll be able to print the report that shows you all the details based on the parameters that you set. And then again, you can attach these activities and notes to it to process it further or follow up or do whatever needs to be done to these products. All right, well, let's take a look at the questions and see if there's any questions that weren't answered during the session. Okay, we have somebody asking, is track and trace a separate module? Yes, track and trace is a separate add-on module. It does require the use of lot serial control because it's tracking and tracing the actual lot or serial numbers. I believe we do sell it as a bundle, so if you wanted to add this to your Acctivate system, feel free to contact your sales team or your salesperson and they can discuss pricing with you. So we do have a question just specifically about lot numbers and expired assemblies. How do you track expired assemblies? It kind of depends on what your need is. We've got some customers that require maybe a customized report to show them maybe highlighted items or lot serial numbers that expire within a certain date or something like that. But we do have a standard report, the lot serial report, that shows expiration dates. And that's in the warehouse section of the inventory reports. And you can see here this expiration date as well as reference information specific to that lot shows on that report. I'll click on it here so it highlights it on screen. So you can see any of the expiration dates available. And here's the brown sugar. We've got 12/28, 12/29. And that can kind of give you a handle on stuff that's going to expire soon. So that way you can figure out what to do with it, whether that's, does it go in the trash after that? Is there something you can do to that product to make it last longer once it gets to that expiration point? Is there further processing? Just like in the example we did, the ground French vanilla coffee beans, that expired in 2 months, but the bagged product expired in 4 months because the bag itself is vacuum sealed, so it has a longer shelf life. So stuff like that can help you figure out what needs to be done to these products or if they need to be thrown away or sold to maybe like a surplus or something like that to get them out, out of your inventory so you're not holding on to that value. Okay, we have a generic just inventory question. Can you explain the difference between available and on hand and when they update? So let's take a look at one of the items just to show you that information. Okay, so we have an on hand of 10 and the available is also 10. That's because it's not listed on an assembly session. It's not listed as work in process. That means that it's not a component on an assembly session that's been created. It also doesn't have a scheduled quantity on a sales order, and it's also not listed as back ordered. So if we create a sales order for this product, and it's just 1, and we hit save, this is going to take the availability down by 1. So now it's available as 9, on hand is 10. On hand is only going to change once you post transactions, whether that's assembly, invoice, adjustment, etc. Available changes based on where that product is listed, not necessarily posted. And we also have an option in Configuration Manager to include the on PO quantities in your available quantity. So that is maybe your lead time isn't very long and you're quoting or you're creating sales orders for stuff that you know it's going to get to the warehouse in time for you to ship it. So you want that anything that's listed on a PO to be included in your available quantity, so it'll go ahead and schedule when you add that product to a sales order. Because when you add an item to a sales order, it's going to schedule it based on that item availability. So if we change this to 11 instead of 1, it's going to schedule 10 because that's what we have on hand, and it's going to back order 1. So now the availability is going to be -1 because you have 10 on hand, there's 10 scheduled and 1 back ordered. So that's 11. So on hand minus 11 is -1. How do you create an assembly that uses both lot and serial numbers? So one product can either be lot or serial numbered, but an assembly can have a list of components that includes lot numbered items, serial numbered items, standard controlled items, so they don't require a lot or serial number. It can also include non-inventoried items. Like we saw, it can include labor, which that's not going to be a lot or serialized thing or product. So we've got this, control type is lot numbered. And if we go to this where used, or this is actually the component list. This component list is comprised of lot controlled and non-lot controlled items. So the sugar is non-lot controlled. If we double click it, the control type is standard and the cost method is average. It doesn't require any kind of unique identifier. The molasses on the other hand does have lot numbers, and it has actual cost. So you can have a mixed bag of control types. It's just one item has to be one control type, but you can have multiple items with each item has its own separate control type. Okay, and then let's see, are you able to send this report to Excel? Yes, you can, just like all other reports in Acctivate. If we go to track and trace, actually, you know what? I don't have Excel on my machine that I'm using, but I can at least get you to the point so you can see where it's done. So when you hit print, this little save export report on the top left-hand corner, you click that, and then you can save as PDF, you can save as Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word, and then you'd specify, the location and so forth. I'm not going to go any further because I don't have Excel here, so I can't do that for you, but yes, you can export it to Excel. And serial numbers are a little bit more restricted. We do have a question on how to use serial numbers. So the demo company that you have on your Acctivate does come with a serialized item. It's the personal copier. So serial numbers are a 1-to-1 ratio. You see here there's not a quantity because the serial number itself is 1-to-1, and it has its own unique cost. I don't think I have any with alternate costs here. But you can use these in an assembly as well. It's the same as a lot number. It's just you can only use one quantity for each line for a serialized item. So previously when we had a lot number, we could choose 5 from one lot and 5 from another lot. With serial numbers, you'll have to choose 1 with one serial number, and then you'll add it again if you're using multiple serial numbers, and then you'll select the next serial number, and then you'll add it again if you're using maybe 3 or 4 or however many you would use in your session. You would just continually add that item to the assembly components list on the session. If you're using custom or process assemblies, you can do that, and you would just select each new serial number because that's that 1-to-1 ratio. So it's exactly the same, it's just 1-to-1. As always, if you have any questions or if you would like to talk to our support team or anything like that, go to our help site, which is help.acctivate.com. And you can search in that search here box. You can create support requests. You can connect to our support team remotely as long as you have an appointment with them. And hopefully you can get all your questions answered. And then also you can download the software or any updates or anything or that you need for any updates. I hope you got some good information out of this webinar, and I hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining us.